Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video I will build the Russian supersonic medium-range fighter bomber, the Sukhoi Su-34 Fullback from Italeri in 1:72 scale. I was looking forward to build this kit for some time now, but the accessory part didn't came in time. Finally they are at home from Mother Russia and I can start build this beauty. This build will include a resin cockpit, kibini ECM pods for electronic warfare, resin jet nozzles and some scratch-built antennas and sensors. For the main ornament of the machine, I choose the Ha-59 cruise missile from my Trumpeter Su-33 kit. Let's get started. Before I get to the cockpit assembly, I have to cut it out of the molding, grind it, and test all the parts in a dry fit. The resin dust causes unpleasant cough, that's why you should always be protected by a respirator and goggles. The entrance to the cockpit is in the front landing gear shaft, so I cut it out with a micro drill. The armored cabin cockpit fits very well. Now I can cut out the ejection seats, instrument panel, joystick and the avionics power panel. I want to fit the resin instrument panel into the plastic fuselage. I progress slowly, many dry tests and cuts are needed. I managed to get the panel into the right position, only a little bit of putty will be needed. The cockpit parts are ready for painting. I can't forget to paint the canopy, therefore I mask it with a combination of Italeri masking tape and Mick Jimenez liquid mask. The cockpit parts are painted with Mr. Color light blue 74 color. Both ejection seats are painted with black semi-gloss color. Now I paint all the small details. After all details are painted, I apply a dark gray and metallic dry brush. Now apply a black paint wash to all the cockpit parts. Black painted parts are pin washed with a grey oil wash. Now I seal all clean part with a semi-gloss varnish. The resin cockpit is glued with a super glue. I'm trying to put the instrument panel in place. The gaps must be filled with a diluted Mr. Putty. The putty is drying out, so I use the time and work on the main wings modification. For this procedure, I will use plastic plates and do a lot of cutting and sanding. Instead of the external hardpoints, I want to place the ECM Hibini parts. That's why I have to cut the hardpoints with a sharp tool. The wings must be cleaned out and sanded down with the sandpaper. Now I can glue the parts with a super glue. The modified wings have auxiliary leading edges. I will create them by using plastic plates. The leading edges have a round shape. I will create them with a micro drill. I sand down the excessive plastic with a P600 sandpaper. I filled all the imperfections with Mr. Putty. I can't progress with the wings until the putty dries out, so I work on the fuselage assembly. The putty on the instrument panel dried out, so I can begin to work on the cockpit again. The panel is painted with a Revel matte black color. Next, I assemble the whole cockpit together. I imitate highlight panel lines with a dark gray dry brush. The wings are finished, so I glue them to the fuselage. There are small gaps between them. It must be filled up with putty. Next, I glued the air intakes in place. The fit was quite good, but the body will be needed. Now I fit the heads-up display and I can close the canopy. The whole fuselage is finally assembled, so I can fill all gaps with Mr. White Body. As I mentioned in my Su-34 review, this is an old kit and it isn't so accurate in details. Lots of panel lines had to be filled up. Now I sand down the body underwater with a P600 and P1000 sandpaper. Some of the antennas are from the box, some of them I had to create from scratch. The model is ready for surfacing and painting. For this procedure, I use Mr. Surfacer 1000. After surfacing, I highlight all panel lines with a pre-shading technique. Before painting the camouflage, I need to paint the landing gear shaft and the main landing gear. Now I paint the engine covers with a metallic silver paint. Next, I had to mask the landing gear shaft and engine covers with a masking tape. I began to paint the camouflage with the radar cone. The reason are a lot of small antennas on the front of the fuselage, and after the painting of the camouflage, it will be very difficult to cover it with masking tape. And now comes the hardest part, mixing the color shades. The Fullback's paint scheme is a combination of blue and green colors. As a base, I use Mr. Color 323 light blue and 319 light green colors. As you can see, the light blue-green color is applied as a second color because, honestly, I messed up the first color shade. I dilute the colors with a 1:4 ratio to leveling thinner. Now I have to repair the first light blue-green color shade with mixing Mr. Color 20, 323 and 319 colors. The dark blue-green color is a mix of Mr. Color 323, 34, 66, 319 and 72 colors. For painting the camouflage, I used the Fengda BD180 with a 0.25mm nozzle. The front of the cockpit canopy is painted with Mr. Color Black No. 2 color. The painting of the camouflage is finished, so I apply a layer of Mr. Color Super Clear varnish. Next step are decals. The decals were very good quality. I expected problems, but the apply went very smoothly. I sealed the decals with a layer of super clear varnish. Now I apply a black-brown oil wash to all parts. After the oil wash dried out, I cleaned the model with a paper towel. The Fullback is in service duty for some time now, so I want to create a weathered machine. I use a mix of black and burnt umber oil paints to imitate dirt and oil leaks. Now I seal the weathering with a mix of matte and super clear varnish. This is the last layer before I started with the assembly. At the end of the build, I assembled the resin jet nozzles. The nozzles are glued together with a super glue. The assembly was without problems and it fit very well. I paint the nozzles with a mix of steel and black color. Next, I added a smooth layer of brown and blue paint to imitate burn of steel. The inner side of the nozzles are burned from afterburner to creamy white-gray color shade. Now I highlight shades with burnt umber oil paint. I sealed the oil paint with a layer of varnish. The last step is a black oil wash. The excessive wash is removed with a cotton swab, and now I can seal the nozzles with a matte varnish. Finally, I can begin with the fullback assembly. First, I glue the main landing gear and landing gear shafts. Next, I glue the H59M and the R27T on their hard points. As an addition to cruise missiles, I added an APK-9 radio data transmission container. Now I glue the H59s and R27s in place. At the end, I glued the jet nozzles, vertical and horizontal stabilizers. Great! The Sukhoi Su-34 fullback is finally finished. This build went by itself and was a lot of fun. I hope you liked this video. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, like or leave a comment down below. If you want to follow my work, you can also join me on Facebook or Instagram. There is a link in the description. Thank you for watching and see you next time.